Okay, we're middle of the laws of lighting Shabbos candles. Let's bring up the Shulchan Aruch. Here we go. Okay, so I believe we are holding. Yeah, sorry, I got ahead over here. We are holding in chapter 75. Hey, Rebecca, we're holding in chapter 75. Here it's a bit slow. We're holding, I believe, law number 3, Halacha Gimel. Okay, so we're talking in law number 1 and 2. We were learning about how early one has to take off a little bit before daybreak to sunset in order to light the Shabbos candles. We talked about in law number 2 about the having lots of light and to make sure that we light it and in the proper way, and the woman makes the bracha, and it's a good time to daven for children, etc. Now we're going to go into the laws, continuing the laws of lighting Shabbos candles. So it says, mitzvah halacha gimel. Mitzvah min hamufchar. It's if you want to do the mitzvah to perfection, is lahadlik b'shemen zayis, is to light with olive oil. I just want to say, it's not something a lot of people do, is lighting Shabbos candles with olive oil. In Eretz Yisrael, or it could be in New York as well. In Eretz Yisrael, we have special, oil that's for the quality of lighting Shabbos candles. Let's say not as expensive, put it this way, as let's say cooking oil. It's called lighting oil, and it clearly says you should not use it for cooking. But even then, most people light with candles, as we'll see. The tradition is that if you decide to take upon yourself this mitzvah min hamufchar, to do the lighting in perfection, which is with olive oil, it's not something you could just do, a week here, a week there. Once you upgrade your lighting to olive oil, hold on, Aaron. Once you upgrade your lighting to olive oil, then that's something you have to take on. You have to take on continuously. So before you take it on, you have to make sure that's a commitment that you and your family are willing and able to commit to long term. Obviously, in circumstances that it's impossible, whether you're traveling, what have you, is obviously different. But once you take upon yourself to light with olive oil, something you have to continue. Yes, Aaron.
Okay. Two things. Could you light some with olive oil and some with candles? And second, how long does the candle have to last?
Okay, lasting the candle we're going to get to in a second. It has to last, so you should benefit from it at your meal, preferably for your meal. That's what the light is for. We'll get to when the candles have to be lit in a second in more detail to that question. To do some with candles, some olive oil, it's a good question. That said, I think if you're doing olive oil, you should just do olive oil. If you're doing candles, stick with candles. If it's easier to stick with candles, then it's a challenge to do olive oil. So then stick with candles. That's what most people do. Olive oil is, like he says, mitzvah min hamufchar.
Is this the same olive oil
perfection
as you use in Hanukkah?
It would be the same one. If you could go in, I don't know what they have in Seattle, but if you have places in New York where you could get the lighting olive oil, which is usually more economical than cooking olive oil.
Every Jewish store sells it.
Okay. But not everyone lives in a place that has the Jewish stores. Okay, so it says mitzvah min hamuvchar lahadlik b'shemen zayis. So he says the Shulchan Aruch says is if you want to do the mitzvah to perfection is to use olive oil, and he adds also v'gam shemen harogil beinenu that we have nowadays, which is called shemen prachim, blumenal, blumen oil is like a blumen is from a bluma is a flower oil. I guess that would be today like canola maybe or other oil is kosher. Again, we know there's an entire chapter in the Tractate of Shabbos dedicated to the Shabbos lighting, which is the second parak b'mem madlikim. Avashar shmanim, other oils. Yesh mayhem. Hold on, Aaron. Let me first finish the Allah.
All I wanted to say real quick was that it's in the prayer. In our book.
That's on the Mehmet Likum we also say in the prayer, but that's yes. That's the second chapter in the second chapter in the tractate of Shabbos. So he says, Yesh mehem she'enim ksherim. There are those oils that are permissible or non-permissible. So you have to make sure that they're oils that work. Today, a lot of people also use kerosene oil, or kerosene liquid. The gamma psila, and also when it comes to the wick, one should be careful. Yehadish te mitzamer geffen, to try to find a wick made out of cotton or flax, pishtan, or cannabis. Basically, you want to get a wick that also doesn't need attention. We're trying to make sure that once you light it, it stays lit, and you don't need to stand around to try to fix it, because people may fix it, and then of course that becomes a problem with Shabbos. Ki b'shar dvarim, other wicks or oils, yesh mem she'enim ksherim, there are those that are not kosher. Ubi b'medina seinu, in what we've been doing in the local communities, like I said before, most people use candles, is noigin lahadik b'neir sasui mechelev, we make from wax or fat. They were using vehin ksheris, and those are kosher. Basically, he's referring to candles of wax. Avalaniach chatichas chelev b'toich kli u'b'toich psila. But if you want to just take a piece of fat, so to say, and just stick a wick in it, that's not going to work. It has to be a properly made candle, because if you're just going to try to make a makeshift candle, it's not going to light properly. Also, the lahadlik cane, then it's prohibited to use something that's just a makeshift, where you take the, so to say, the wax, fat, whatever you want to call it. He calls it over here of tallow. So you can, it has to be, a properly made candle. Also, and when you light it, you have to make sure that the fire catches properly to most of the wick that comes out of the candle or the oil or kerosene. Also, when using candles, make sure that the fire connects to the candle. So the point of this halacha is, what materials are you allowed to use for lighting the candles? And more important, to make sure that you're not putting together something that's not going to last properly, and therefore either it's not going to have the benefit what we need for the candle to give us light while we're enjoying the Shabbos. The point of the lighting is that we're going to see where the questions come up. For instance, the basic idea is that we should light candles where we eat Friday night, and therefore we're benefiting from the candles in our meal. So, but if you're in a situation where you don't have a meal, or you're not eating at home, or what have you, or you're a Shiva boy and you're eating in someone else's house, all these questions that are going to be addressed. So there has to be a benefit from the candle. So a candle in a room that you're eating in, that itself gives a joy for Shabbos. It's part of Onik Shabbos. Shalom Bayis or Shabbos. If you're not going to be eating, so it should be in a room. We're going to see it's in a room where it's dark, so it's adding to the light. But all the idea is that the candle has to give something. So if you're going to use a candle that doesn't light properly, then it's not just that the mitzvah is not just to light something that goes out in 30 seconds, because doesn't last.
If you use a candle to study by in a book, Jewish text.
You have to. That's so simple, because if you're using it to read in a candle on Shabbos, it's brought down. You shouldn't do that, because when you're reading, you need to have better lighting. And the person who has a lamp, right? You're going to kind of direct the lamp so you could see better. So the concern is you may read to the candle and adjust the candle to your liking to help you with the reading, even if you're not going to be conscious about it, because that's something you may use to in a regular time. If you're in a room like we have today, like your room you're sitting in now, that there's plenty of light and the candle is just adding joy, that's something else. But if you're actually in a dark room and you need the light, that's the Gemara clearly talks about that. And there's different scenarios if you're sitting with other people and there's someone watching and someone reminding. But in general, you're not supposed to read to the candles.
Okay. I'm asking because on Hanukkah you can't use a candle for anything, just the beauty.
That's the difference, because of the shtamish, not to use the mitzvah. Here we're talking about that's what we have the shamish. Here we're talking about the concern that it's Shabbos and you may come to adjust the fire. You're not allowed to adjust fire on Shabbos. Hanukkah during the week, that's not a problem.
Okay.
although you could also harm the candles. Okay, here we say, footnote number 10, he says, this is not referred to a kashrut regard to eating. It's not going to say, the question is not, when he says kosher, so that's what he's coming to. It doesn't mean that you could, the question of eating the candle or eating the oil, that's not the question, but only regard to lighting. Is it a good a material, whether it's the wick or the oil, to light? Certain oils give off bad odor, that's not good, and therefore it could cause the family to leave the room, which is counterproductive, and eat in the dark, which is counterproductive. So if it's going to be a bad smell and it's going to be a bad gas, all those things we shouldn't use, or if it's not going to light well. Number 11 is about the wicks, the kind of wick you use. For if it's a certain wick that they splatter and you may mistakenly adjust the flame on Shabbos in violation of the prohibition of lighting fire, therefore one should only use candles that have quality wicks. Okay, just a side note, when he says in our country that they used candles made out of tallow, that was the author of the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. Just for those who are wondering what he means, he lived in the country of what's now Hungary. 13, he says, to use a proper candle, the tallow need not be kosher. The actual material doesn't have to be kosher, but should be made of fat that comes from kosher animals. It means don't use, if they're using fat, they shouldn't make candles out of non-kosher animal fat. Even if the fat itself is not kosher, what would be the scenario, obviously, if it wasn't slaughtered? Number 14, it says, but just sticking a wick in for the purpose of lighting without making a proper candle, that's not allowed. Why? Tallow may be used only in the form of candles where it is drawn well into the wick. It means you make it into proper candle. But you may not use it as you would oil, which you just stick, so to say, the wick in the oil, because in that form it's not drawn well into the wick and therefore it doesn't work properly as a candle. Yes, Aaron.
What does a proper kosher candle look like? According to the Torah, what does a proper
a proper candle means a factory-made candle, or if you're going to do it, or if you can properly put it, melt the wax. But to just, when he was talking about was fat, like, so what people will do is you have oil, right? So in oil, you just stick the wick in the oil and it lights properly because it's a liquid. Where this is more of a solid. So if it's not made into a proper candle, it's not made in the way that the wick is going to operate properly with the substance. So therefore, it's not going to light properly. That's all.
But olive oil, you just stick the wick in, and you have a floater.
Because that's a liquid. We're not talking about liquids. We're talking about fat. That's something else.
Okay, gotcha. But fat turns into liquids when it's burned.
Not the same way.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay. First of all, that's part of the problem. The condition for that is that the oil has to burn, right?
I mean, lamb fat. My Syrians use a lot of lamb fat, so you can make it into oil, like olive oil.
Okay, but I'm saying, but that itself requires it to be not olive oil; it's fat. That itself requires to be lit. So if you're just sticking into a fat substance and waiting for it to be lit, and then it's going to turn into liquid, that's not so simple. Okay, so basically, everyone has the ability to go to a store and there's the tea lights, what people use sometimes, etc. Okay, now he goes into the question that all women know of how we do the blessing on the actual candles. Meaning to say, most mitzvahs we light, first we make a bracha, and then we do the mitzvah. Like we make a bracha on tefillin and put on tefillin. Shabbos candles, first we light, and then we say the bracha. So he addresses that question. Kfar Yedua, it's known. Shekol ha-mitzvahs mevarcham aleim over li'asiyasen. When we make a bracha on a mitzvah, whatever the mitzvah is, we make it what's called over li'asiyasen before we do the mitzvah. So you make the blessing and then you do the mitzvah. Avo badlokas haneros, the Shabbos, when it comes to lighting the Shabbos candles. Kevon shebadloka mekabel isha Shabbos alatzma, the lighting itself, the woman takes upon herself, she becomes Shabbos for her. We're going to see that there is a difference even if a man is lighting. The man who goes to shul, Shabbos primarily kicks in, so to say, when they go to shul, when they daven Ma'ariv. But for the woman, it's when she lights the candles. And once she makes the blessing, she's already starting the lighting. That's the beginning of the process. And therefore, if Shabbos is coming in when she says the bracha, then by lighting, she's kind of violating the Shabbos because you're lighting a fire on Shabbos. If she were to bless it first, you can't light. Because when you light, it's already Shabbos, because you said your Shabbos started to come in when you said the bracha. Therefore, the halacha is that the women first light their candles, like we all know, and then they make the bracha. And that's why one of the reasons, I'm sure there's many mystical reasons, but that's one of the halachic reasons of why the women cover their eyes after they light while they're saying the bracha. Is Peireshes Yadea Keneged Paneha. She covers her eyes with her face with her hands, if she can. Shleitir Arner is not to see the candles, meaning not to take joy yet in the candles, if it's light. Umavareches. Then after she lights it, she makes the bracha, umasira sayadayim, and she removes her hands from in front of her face. Then she pays attention to the candles, and she's taking the mitzvah in from the oinig Shabbos, the joy of Shabbos, the joy the candles brings to the room. And then it's as if the bracha came before, because you only start to benefit from the candles after you made the blessing. So you light, cover your eyes, and the women have all the customs of how they make it with their hands. And there's a lot of remez and yisod. And this four Torah is broken up into the pardes. So there's the remez, sod, and drush. But in the pshat, in the simple halachic reason, the reason is not to take in the joy of Shabbos, of the light of candles, before you make the bracha. So the question then obviously comes in: what about Yom Tov? A woman, if the halacha is like that, is for the reason of that you can't light after you make the blessing. And we know that at Yom Tov, you're allowed to light candles. So then we should do it the proper way. We should first make the bracha and then light the candles. So the Shulchan Aruch addresses that question. It says mishum d'loi plug, not to make a difference, because when you have things and you change orders, it confuses people, and then it can end up happening that on Shabbos someone may learn from Yom Tov to Shabbos. It just opens up room for mistakes. So in order mishum d'loi plug, not to make a difference between Yom Tov and Shabbos, noigim kach b'Yom Tov, so too is the custom. He uses the word noyhagos. The custom is not the halacha. Why? Because the halacha it would be in the reverse. We do the same thing as that. We light the candles first, then make the blessings, obviously covering your eyes, and then look at the joy of the candles. Ve'ikar haneris shebehen have kabbalas Shabbos. The main candles that are connected to bringing in Shabbos are, especially in those days when they had candles all over the house. It should be the candles that are on the table. We try to make sure, obviously, in a situation where it's possible, to have the candles on the table or near the table, so it actually brings joy to the actual meal. We should light those last. That means if you're going around the house lighting candles to light up the house for Shabbos, so you light the last ones on the table, because those are the main ones for hadlakas neiros, for the mitzvah. Now, he's bringing in a halacha seemingly not connected to what he said before. Meaning to say, what's the underlining point that we were saying up until now? That when a woman lights Shabbos candles, Shabbos comes in. So he says like this, and if it's a situation where one needs, for instance, if a woman has to leave the home, and let's say she has to go to the mikveh for something else, that she doesn't want to accept Shabbos at the time of lighting, or something else that's important, not just casually. The point over here is it shouldn't just be a casual idea that you don't take Shabbos in with lighting the candles. If a woman can, she should take the candles, she should take the Shabbos in with lighting the candles. But if there's reasons, and whatever those reasons are, she can't, then the woman can make a condition, she's not going to accept Shabbos with lighting the candles. Let's see later. He says in Sif Kuf Siman Kuf Samach Sif Hey in this case, so then you can make the bracha before you light, because by lighting you're not accepting Shabbos, even though it seems to be what would be the idea of the light plug of not to make a difference between Yom Tov. But here he says because you're not accepting Shabbos with it, and you have intention not to accept Shabbos with it because of whatever the reason is that you can't accept Shabbos, it's not your traditional way of lighting. Maybe that's why there's no concern. Okay, let's see the footnotes here. I don't think that's the custom, though. I don't think us tuchal, it says. I don't think still that's the custom that women who light candles before they take in Shabbos will make the bracha before they light, because again, it's opening up a place where for allowing for confusion. So he says in footnote, yes, Barbara.
I was just going to say that's confusing.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, because if she says the blessing and lights the candles, but she hasn't accepted Shabbos, then why is she lighting candles? Why is the woman lighting candles? That makes no sense to me.
No, because what happens is that you're in a scenario where you can't. That's your last opportunity to light candles. Let's say you go into the mikvah, so then once you leave home, you're not going to be back before Shabbos, or if you have something else. So we're talking about a situation where that's your last opportunity to light, and therefore, and wherever you're going, you're not going to be able to light. So, but you need to have the opportunity to not take Shabbos in yet. But on that condition, if it's necessity, you should do that. For instance, if you know for sure that you're going to be working or whatever it is that you're a medical professional. So if halachically, obviously, for medical reasons, you have to be working on Shabbos to be available, and you're taking your shift early before Shabbos comes in. So then you could like Shabbos candles before and make it, to take a resolution not to accept the Shabbos until it's proper time.
So I have a question. If I'm unable to light Shabbat candles, do I still do the Havdalah ceremony?
Havdalah is not, the Havdalah is separate. I mean, although both of them have candles and fire, but they're two separate ideas. The fire that we use for Havdalah is connected to the fire that first man and women had after Shabbos. So that's something separate than the fire for the candle that we use for Shabbos is actually a candle to bring light.
But I can do that. I can do that ceremony.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's what I want. Okay.
After Shabbos leaves. Okay, so he says on Yom Tov we do it that way as well, not to plug, not to make a difference between Shabbos and Yom Tov. So he says Derech HaChaim, which is a halachic authority, rules that when a man lights Shabbos candles, okay, so far we didn't get into the men-woman, that's next law. But when a man lights, they're getting ahead of themselves. When a man lights Shabbos candles, he should do it in the same way as a woman, even though he does not welcome the Shabbos at that time. Most men do not accept Shabbos when they light candles. We're going to see that because of the men, the Shabbos comes in when they go to shul. So then again, you would think, let them light the bracha first and then light, because anyways they're not accepting in Shabbos. Says no. He should do the same way as the woman, even though he does it not welcome the Shabbos at the same time. This is in order not to differentiate in the way we perform the mitzvah. Again, based on that logic, that would apply even if a woman is not taking in Shabbos, because it's under the same issue. Hold on, Aaron. Differentiate the way we taking the mitzvah. Rabbi Kiva Eger, another halachic authority, rules that on Yom Tov the bracha is said before the lighting of the candles. So the Rabbi Kiva Eger disagrees, and he says that one should light the candles before one lights, but one should make the bracha before one lights the candles on the Yom Tov, because Yom Tov there's no prohibition against lighting candles. Yes, Aaron. Again, just want to say, hold on, Aaron. Just want to just point out that on Yom Tov we're not allowed to start a fire, meaning to say we're not allowed to light a match or a lighter. It has to be from a pre-existing fire. That's one of the reasons we have the yard site or the 24-hour candle or a 48-hour candle that we use on Yom Tov. So any fire that we use on Yom Tov has to be coming from a pre-existing flame. Sorry, Aaron, go ahead. Try to talk through the mic.
Okay. So my question is that how many minutes before Shabbos starts does she light the candle? Can she light in such a way that she takes in Shabbos at the same time as I do at shul? Because I may take another 10 minutes to get to shul before we get to that portion where I take in Shabbos.
No. Listen, the Shabbos comes in at a time that it comes in. Means once we have the tradition by most cities is we light 18 minutes before. 18 minutes before Shkia. Shabbos comes in with the Shkia, with the sunset. So 18 minutes before in Jerusalem, it's 38 or 40 minutes, whatever it is, before the actual Shkia comes in. Once Shabbos comes in, there's no condition you can't violate the Shabbos.
My question is 18 minutes before Shabbos started.
Yeah, but a woman is not. Once a woman lights Shabbos candles, I guess, unless it's a unique. I'm not gonna say extreme, but unique circumstance that you need to be able to continue with ability to do weekly things for whatever that reason is, and it's an exception to the rule. Then you can make the condition, but that condition only lasts until Shabbos comes in. Now, regarding your question, what happens if there's a davening Shabbos early, which we spoke about last week, where the man takes in Shabbos early, the whole family takes in Shabbos early in the summer. So, like we learned last week, then when the rabbi, I think it was Rabbi Raskin from London was saying that there are cases where the woman could wait until the husband says Baruch Hu or Mizmor Shir, which would be 10 or 15 minutes after he goes to show, whatever the figuring out the time is, but she has to light then. But once she lights, Shabbos comes in, unless there's a condition. Again, if you need to get in a car, Rebecca asked a few months ago about getting in, or a few weeks ago about taking a train to Shul. If a woman obviously wants to go to Shul and she wants to take the train there, so that those are situations where you can make a condition. Again, if it's in a situation where you have, even if that unique circumstance comes of your week, it could be, again, run it by your local rabbi to find out if that's what you should be doing, davening in a shul that requires you every single week to get into a subway and not taking Shabbos when you light candles. Preferably, you should take in Shabbos when you light the candles.
Let's just use something simple. She lights the candle, and then I'm not going to take in Shabbos for another 15 minutes, but I'm leaving in 2 minutes, but I like to use hot water to wash my hands.
You're talking about, when you say me, you mean the husband?
I'm saying me, the husband.
Okay,
lights the candles. Can I wash my hands before I leave?
Yes. The woman lighting candles is accepting Shabbos for herself.
So I haven't accepted it, so I can still wash my hands in hot water.
Yes. Again, but Shabbos doesn't come in only when you daven. Shabbos comes in when Shabbos comes in. There's a time when sunset.
Yeah, I know
if
that.
sunset Ishkia, if you're davening before that, then Shabbos comes in for you at that time. But if you're just hanging around the house and not going to shul till late for whatever reason, Shabbos, you're not going to extend Shabbos because you didn't have Ma'ariv yet.
No, that wasn't my question. My question.
No, I understand. I understand. I just want to point that out.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Sure. Okay. So yeah, I don't know. In New York, obviously, it's less driving than in, let's say, Seattle. Many husbands who are going to shul will get into a car after their wives already left. Again, there's different things that the woman could do that is not directly violating the Shabbos. For instance, taking a ride in the car is not the same thing as turning on the engine and driving the car. Like we learned, it's like the boat that's going already. Okay, number 16 in the footnotes, he says, we're talking about to light it, the candles near the meal should be lit last. He quotes the Magen Avram, again, one of the halachic authorities, rules that the bracha should be said over the candles that are on the table, which is our custom. It means you shouldn't just light it last or whatever. You have to make sure to light the candles. Obviously, you can't light any candles once you made the bracha, but you should make the bracha on the candles that are closest to the table or on the table. However, the bracha may also be recited when they are lit in any place that the household will occupy and use. It means any place that the light's going to add to the joy of Shabbos. You could make it. It's not conditional that you only make the bracha on the table, but preferably that should be the place where you make it. Again, in the scenario that's not possible for whatever reason, there's many reasons you can't have candles on the table. Whether you're in your home, it's not safe, or there's literally no space. So then you could do it. You try to do it next to the table, that it brings light to the table. Other people have the custom. Let's say some women, I think my mother does that, which will have a candelabra that is for all her family. Hey, Danny, that's for all her family. She has the Baruch Hashem her a large family, and then she'll have two separate ones on the table. So then you would light the two separate ones on the table last and make the blessing on those. Okay. Now we're going to address the question of men versus women when it comes to lighting Shabbos candles. And there's a lot of questions because we have the question of yeshiva boys and where they eat and what's your connection to your host. Is your host someone you eat by always or just once in a while? Yes, Rebecca.
Sorry to like take you off track, but you just mentioned something about how many candles your mom lights. So is there, I know at minimum you have to light 2, except single Chabad women light 1, but is there any sort of, is it like a halacha to light 1 for every member of your family, or it's like a minhag?
Is it a halacha or a minhag? It's not a halacha. It's a minhag to light for on behalf, like on for how many children you have.
Right.
Again, there is one case where it gets into halacha if your additional candles are because you missed. If you missed a week, b'mezid intentionally or b'pshia in the negligence, then you have to kind of make up for that by adding 1 candle every week. So that would be even if you were single or had no children. So in that case, then you're adding it's more part of the mitzvah as opposed to a minhag. But yeah, that's a minhag to light according to the children you have.
Okay, so like a married woman with like 3 kids, let's say, she could light just 2 candles every week if she wants.
Yeah, but the minhag accepted by Yisrael, by Klal Yisrael, is to light according to how many children you have.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Okay. Mitzvahs hadlakas neras chala bein al hanashim bein al hanashim. The mitzvah itself is not just for women, we know it as a woman's mitzvah, right? Chana is the 3 mitzvahs of woman: chala, ner, and hadlakas nida and hadlakas neras. But nevertheless, it's a mitzvah that's an obligation for both men and women. Ella, however, shanashim muzharais ba'yaser. It's more, so to say, a mitzvah concerned to the woman. Why? First, he mentions technically. Technically, the one that's at home that's going to be there to light the candles is going to be the woman. So therefore, she's the one who has the mitzvah is focused towards her. That's just based on the practical part of the halacha. But on top of that, there's another reason. The woman was involved. When we're talking about here is Chava eating from the tree of knowledge and being the one that gave it to her husband Adam. And because she was the one who started the transgression of eating from the tree of knowledge, so she's considered the one she keeps her ner shalaylam. She put out the candle of the world, so to say, the light of the world. Shehechti ala adam arisha, and she sinned and then gave her husband to sin as well. Vehechshicha nishmasai, and darkened the souls. Shekruya ner, we know that the soul of a person neravai nishmas adam, like he's going to say, ner alikim nishmas adam. So the soul of man is their soul, and the soul got darkened by sin, the first sin of the tree of knowledge, and because that was initiated by the woman, by Chava, so therefore it's a responsibility for her to sort of say relight that candle. The light of God is the soul of man. This is a way of a tikkun. So the Ner Shabbos is a tikkun, is a way for women to rectify that transgression that started all the way back from Chava. By lighting candles in honor of Shabbos. Therefore, based on what we said, we gave 2 reasons why the woman lights candles. One is if she's found at home more. And the second one is because this is directly connected to rectifying a tikkun for the sin of the tree of knowledge that was initiated by Chava. So because of that, that's you're both in the house. And both are working and both equal, running home for Shabbos. Nevertheless, so if the woman's home, she comes first, based on those 2 reasons. A person, we know the custom is that when there's a husband in the house, the husband is the one who's supposed to help in the mitzvah, not just to rely on the woman. And therefore, the custom by Klal Yisrael is that the husband is the one who sets up the candles. The husband should help with the mitzvah, and he should be the one that sets up the candles or the oils. and to and singe them to get them ready. There's some people. This is the custom that a lot of husbands have, if it's candles or even others, to light the candles because to give it a kind of a little bit of it's easier once the candles be lit to relight it. Put out the candles. Obviously, in the way that Jewish people, we don't blow out candles. We don't blow out fire. We respect the fire that way. So we kind of wave our hands or other ways to put out the flame. And then it makes it easier for the woman to light the candles. I'm just going to say a nice story because tonight is Chav B'Shvat, the yahrzeit of our Rebbitzin, Chaim Musia Schneerson, the Rebbe's wife. And I heard from Rabbi Deitch, he heard, I guess, from someone who was an attendant in the house, that the Rebbe's father had the custom, and the Rebbitzin's father, which was the previous Rebbe, had his own custom. So the Rebbe's custom in his house was to light the candles first, like it says here in Shulchan Aruch, to prepare the candles and light them first, and then have so the woman could light what's already been lit. The previous Rebbe's custom, for his reasons, was not to pre-light the candles. So the attendant noticed that out of respect to her husband, if the Rebbe was still home when the Rebbitzin was lighting candles, she would light the candles that her husband prepared. If the Rebbe had left already, for whatever reason, before Shabbos, she would switch the candles that he prepared and put in her own candles so she could light it according to the custom of her father, the previous Lubavitch Rebbe. Okay, that's just the story in honor of the Rebbitzin tonight's yahrzeit. The Hainu Shiadlikim V'Chaben. What does it mean to prepare the flames? To light the candles and to put them out, which is the custom that the Rebbe was doing, which is preparing the candles. So it makes it much easier to light them once they've been lit first. Isha, now he just brings down another halacha. Isha yeledes b'Shabbos harishon yadlik bal v'yivarach. If a woman's after childbirth, and obviously it's difficult for her to be involved in that detail of lighting the Shabbos candles, the husband should light it. Even in a case where a woman is in the time and month of Nida, nevertheless, she lights the candles only after the first childbirth. She lights it and makes the bracha. Let's just do. I don't know if you have a question. Let's wait till after, if we can, after the footnotes of this halacha. So he says 18 is okay. This is quoting the Arizal says the reason the woman lights the candles is as a tikkun for the Chet Eitz Hadas. Okay, just giving us. Okay, this is the minhag, the source of the minhag of a husband preparing the candles. He says number 20 is from the Arizal. We know the father. We're talking about the Rebbe's father. The Rebbe's father was a Kabbalist as well. So that's the minhag Kabbalah. For whatever reason, the previous Rebbe had another reason not to light the candles. And therefore the Rebbitzin did it. She wanted to do like her father did, unless the Rebbe was there. Okay. Now let's see the reasoning why. After a woman gives birth, her husband should light candles in the first Shabbos. So he says in footnote number 21, why? Because it's difficult for her to get up and do it. Practical, right? The Knesset Hagdola, again, a halachic authority, rules that a candle should be brought to her so that she may light it herself. That means we still prefer the woman to light the candle. So even though we don't want her to have to get out of bed after the first week of childbirth, but we should bring the candle to her, and the husband, who, like we spoke, Aaron has not accepted Shabbos yet, could bring it back to place it where it has to be placed. So that she may light, she may light it herself. The Shilah, I think means the Shalah, rules that her husband should light it for her. So there's different opinions who lights it. The husband or the wife. He quotes the Knesset Hagdolah that even in such a case the woman should light it. Okay. All right, Aaron, you wanted to ask something? No, Rebecca.
Yeah. Let's say the wife is away for Shabbos and it's the husband and a daughter who's over bat mitzvah. So then who's supposed to light for them?
Excellent question. Okay, so first of all, not all Jewish circles have the custom that the woman lights before marriage. But it could also be that the woman is married, the daughter's at home married. But Chabad custom is, and a lot of people accepted, the Rebbe started that women should start lighting Shabbos candles from the age of 3. That's Chabad custom based on Rivka, Rivka, we know, was 3, according to most commentaries, when she got married, and she lit Shabbos candles before she got married. The Rebbe builds the whole case. Yet Yitzchak only married her after she lit Shabbos candles. From there, we see that she lit even though Avram was lighting before. Based on that, the woman should light. And based on the fact that we see that Rivka lit candles even in the house of Avram, when she was just a guest, is obviously that the woman should always light even if she's not the wife. Yes, Aaron.
Okay, you said we don't blow out candles, yet a lot of Jews
Sorry?
blow out. You said we don't blow out candles.
Mhm.
So a lot of people blow out candles on a birthday cake.
Well,
Is that
we don't do that. We try not to do that. It's not a Jewish custom. We don't blow out candles. You could wave your hand.
what's the reason for it?
It's connected to the idea of Ner V'Ayin Nishmas Adam. We respect the sanctity of the candle. So by blowing it out in that kind of way, we try to do what's called like a non-regular way of blowing it out. I have to check exactly what's the difference between the hand and the blowing, but it's based on the idea of not putting out a candle. Candle represents life.
So my son, for the end of Shabbos, he'll pour grape juice over it, then stick the cup over the candle. So that's okay. That's better than blowing.
Yeah, but also in that, we'll get to that when we get to the laws of Havdalah. There's different questions if you pour the wine on top of the candle, you dip the candle into the wine.
Okay.
Wait, Rabbi, I didn't catch your answer to my question. So were you saying that the husband has more of a chiyuv or
No, even in that case, the daughter should light, or the
Okay.
woman in the house should light. Again, Rivka was not even a daughter; she was a soon-to-be daughter-in-law,
Mm-hmm.
and she wasn't even married, and she lit the candles in the house.
Okay.
The Rebbe, it's a beautiful talk. The Rebbe in Chai Sarah, just we'll finish with that. In Chai Sarah, we have the story that it says the whole parsha is based on, basically, that Eliezer is sent to go find a future wife for Yitzchak. He brings home Rivka. The pasuk says that he brought her into his mother's tent. Then he loved her and he married her. So the Rashi right away quotes, what does it mean he brought her into her mother's tent? He wanted to see it. Not all the things that Eliezer said, that miracles and his conditions and God answered, all those things were nice as far as Yitzchak was concerned. He had Kitzur Shulchan, he jumped, that's all nice. Yitzchak wanted to see for himself, and he wanted to see 3 things. And first was he saw the tent, the cloud came down over the tent, there was a blessing in the bread, and she lit Shabbos candles, which means to say she lit Shabbos candles before he married her, which means that that she lit Shabbos candles before she was married. B, she was 3. That's what the Rebbe says we light from 3 years old. And C, that it was the most important for her to light, even though Avram was there, because we have to assume from when Sarah passed away until they got married, Yitzchak got married, Avram and Yitzchak were lighting in their home, in their tents. But once Rivka came, she was the one who lit the candle. So there we see clearly that the girl in the house would light it, even in the case where she's not the wife.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Okay, I think we'll end here, and thank you all for joining. A good Shabbos and a good Chodesh, and we're talking about light. We should have a lightful day with unfortunately, all the negativity that's going to be coming today. We should have a day of Or and light, and Yehudim Hoysa Oira, which is the month of Adar. Take care, everyone.